In the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is faced with a terrible choice: fight in the battle against his own relatives, or flee from the battlefield and neglect his duty, allowing the evil Duryodhana to remain in power. Surprisingly, in the second chapter, Krishna tells him to fight, explaining that the soul is immortal and that thus he shall not grieve for any living being. Some accuse Krishna of being immoral in telling Arjuna to fight, but they miss the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna could not stop the battle by not taking part in it. Actually, by not fighting, he could just make the situation worse, since the battle would still happen, but the army of Duryodhana would have a greater chance of winning. The situation of Arjuna at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita is actually very similar to a doctor at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. Being a doctor, he has the duty of keep working and treating his patients. However, by doing so, he exposes himself and his dear ones to risk, since it's a new virus about which he knows little about. If he would catch the virus and die, what would happen to his family? What if he would get the virus and pass it to other people? What if he would give the incorrect treatment to some patient and he would come worse or die? Many of the same doubts Arjuna presented in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita would cross his mind, and the choice would be the same: to fight or not to fight. Just like a doctor could not stop the pandemic by refusing to treat his patients, Arjuna could not stop the battle by refusing to fight. In both cases, one has a duty to perform, and negligence will just make the situation worse. The Bhagavad Gita is thus not about stopping the battle, but about Arjuna's personal role in it. Although the Battle of Kurukshetra is a historical event, the story of Arjuna also illustrates our personal battles in life. All of us face difficult decisions in life. In every case, we have some role to perform, and we can choose between acting or omitting ourselves. The Bhagavad Gita is thus not just about a particular battle that happened 5,000 years ago, but about our personal role in life and in the universe. It's about how to understand what our duty is in every situation, and about how to perform it with the right consciousness. We frequently fail to recognize how our consciousness shapes our reality. It's not an exaggeration to say that consciousness creates reality. The same action performed with a different consciousness can create a completely different result. More than that, our consciousness directly determines the karmic reactions to our acts. To act with the proper consciousness is the path for spiritual elevation, as Krishna is going to explain in the remaining chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, the case of Arjuna is an extreme case of personal choice. If he could find the right course of action by following these teachings, not only performing his duty but becoming spiritually advancing by doing so, surely we also can, no matter what our situation is. Surely none of us will face a more difficult choice than Arjuna. Most of the time, the situations we face in life are just due to providence. Life presents different situations before us, and events happen beyond our control. In this tornado, the only thing we can control is our personal actions. To run away is rarely the way to achieve anything. In most situations, we have to find the strength to stand and fight. To try to solve a problem requires much more strength and determination than just running from it, and to face a problem with the right mindset is even more difficult. Thus, the personal battle of Arjuna is used as an illustration of our personal battles, and the Bhagavad Gita is the knowledge that helps us to come out victorious. The instructions Krishna gave to Arjuna are actually personal instructions to all of us. By studying this conversation of Krishna and Arjuna, we can find insights about how to achieve true success in life. At first, Krishna explains to Arjuna about the importance of executing one's duty, saying, "My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy." Later, after explaining about the immortality of the soul, Krishna concludes by saying that Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religion's principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Everyone has a particular propensity, a particular talent, and a particular role to play in the world. In the case of Arjuna, this propensity was to defend the weak and rule society, and thus, when there was injustice, his duty was to fight for the just cause. This opportunity appeared in the battle of Kurukshetra. Therefore, he had the duty of using his talents in support of the right cause. Similarly, each one of us has a certain propensity, a certain talent, and a certain duty to perform. In some situations, it may be difficult or even dangerous, as a doctor during a pandemic or a policeman working in a dangerous area, but still, one has to perform his duty. However, to perform one's duty is just the first step. To advance spiritually, one has to do it with the right consciousness. This is the process of karma yoga that Krishna will explain to Arjuna starting from the second half of the second chapter. As Krishna explains, the duel fights for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by doing so you shall never incur sin. To execute our duties without attachment, without expecting a particular result and as an offering to the Supreme, is actually a very powerful process of yoga that can quickly elevate one's consciousness. At the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna wanted to abandon the battlefield and become a sage meditating in the forest. Some that have this inclination may actually do that, but understanding that Arjuna was proposing that only due to fear and frustration, Krishna advised him to instead perform his duty as a kshatriya, but with the right consciousness. If Arjuna could become self-realized by practicing this process, even while fighting in a war, certainly we also can advance by practicing the same path in our daily activities.